some scenarios as to where the system's going to help save you guys time when it comes to recruitment.
Great.
Okay, cool. So first, can I confirm that just to sort of set the expectation, I guess, and have the agenda, is everyone okay to be on the call for 40 minutes? Or,
yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, and I know, Liz, we touched on it previously. We had a little bit of a discussion about some of the pain points that you're experiencing and some of the areas that you recognised could be, could be improved as far as saving time in the recruitment process. I remember you speaking about going through a lot of applications for one role and having to sort of read through the resumes manually and also watch some of those what do we call them again? The show reels, people show reels and things like that of demonstrations of some of the material that they've done in the past. Yeah. Is that correct? Yeah. Great. Great. Well, just to sort of retouch on that a little bit, would you mind sort of Liz, yourself or Bronwyn, or either we can be teamwork, but would you mind sort of going over and maybe just going into a little bit more detail about some of the problems that you're actually facing, or maybe just tell us again about your recruitment process that's happening at VIMN?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, the recruitment process is quite manual. So depending on the role, we'll advertise, say if it's a production role, we'll advertise on LinkedIn, Salute, Pedestrian, sometimes Seek, depending on the role. And I guess for me, the main pain point, as you put it, is just the volume that we seem to be getting through. So for example, we recently put up an ad for a producer role, and I think we got about 300 resumes in for that role, and we interviewed like 2 people out of 300 resumes. It's just that we're getting a lot of quantity because of our brand, but not a lot of quality. So it's just it just is quite time consuming when you've got to open that volume of resumes and then look through show reels. Not all of our roles are production based or creative, so it's not always that high volume, but I reckon we'd probably get anywhere from 50 to 100 for a general role here, and the more creative roles we seem to get a bit higher volume.
Right, exactly. So you're experiencing a high volume of applicants every time you do put in a role. I remember we were talking about talent pooling as well, and the ability to sort of store some of those top applicants that you have that you do get through. You're not able to give everybody a role. There's only one position at that point in time. Not to mean that more positions won't open up in the future. Did you want to speak a little bit about that too, Liz?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm just putting any resumes in a folder that's called Talent Pool. That I think, okay, you might not be right for a producer, but you'd be a great editor or something completely different. And then when I do have a role come up, I will go back to that folder and have a scan through. But it's like, it's very manual, very ad hoc.
And I guess it's quite dependent on your knowledge or memory of those CVs as well. So if someone else was recruiting or you left and someone else came in, that knowledge would probably drop off.
And also with our email system, I've been noticing that some of the resumes that I have been putting in the talent pool folder have now been archived and I can't retrieve them, which makes it a bit tricky.
Yeah, that could be, yes, absolutely. Sorry, continue.
No, that's kind of it. So it's a very kind of manual, ad hoc process again. No science to it. It's still in a folder at the moment.
Right. Okay, great. And how's the communication when the need to sort of fill a role or advertisement approval? How does that sort of come up? Is there a sort of a chain of command where that's involved before you put the job advert out? Is that something that you guys look at, or is it just a case of Liz decides there's a role and Liz puts it out? What happens?
So we do.
This would hire a recruitment person if that was the case.
So we do try and follow a process. Sometimes it just depends on, I guess, how urgent the role is to be filled. But generally, we don't we try not to advertise until our internal hiring approval form has been submitted, which is basically the approval that we need from the UK to fill a role.
Okay.
But sometimes it can take a few weeks for that to happen. So what we might do is, if we're time poor, we might, as long as that form has been sent, we might start the advertising process, because it does obviously take a few weeks for the resumes to come in. So, and then I will pop the ads up, and then kind of go from there, first round interview, second round, to making an offer. But it isn't really black and white.
Okay. Yeah, no, understood. Okay, well, definitely application.
The hiring authorization form is done online through our HR database. So
okay.
that side is set by Viacom and not able to change. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, that's not a problem. Brilliant, brilliant. And I think that's about it before we let Ron sort of take the wheel over and sort of run you through a bit of a demonstration as to some of the areas that we can solve a couple of the issues that you're having there at the moment. Just lastly, just before we continue though, responding to applicants, because I know that it can be a bit of a process, submitting a normal, everyday, ordinary resume without having to attach a show reel as well, therefore even creating the show reel to begin with. So I'd imagine that the application process for each individual candidate would be quite time-consuming for them too, and I'm guessing that they would appreciate like some feedback, even if they haven't been successful, at that point in time getting a role. Is that something? Are you guys able to sort of communicate with every single applicant that applies for each role, or is that just something that you're too time poor to manage at the moment?
Yeah, so when we get all of the applications in, regardless of the role, we do send an auto reply, which is an email.
You got auto reply?
Yeah, so thanking them for the application and advising that we will only contact the successful candidates for interview.
Okay, great. So everyone gets an auto reply, but then after that, it's only successful candidates and everyone's aware of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, well, what I might do is I might pass it over to Ron. Ron, if you could sort of give us a little bit of a demonstration on Scout itself, and some of it maybe touching on the talent pooling feature, and also the shortlisting process as well, which would be very handy as well. I think we spoke quickly, Liz, about the shortlisting feature that we do have, where you're able to identify your top candidates very quickly without having to read 300 resumes to figure out your top 10 and then go down to 6 again. So are you there, Ron?
I am.
Brilliant.
Hello.
Well, I might hi. Well, I might pass it over to you from this point, Ron, and I'll be listening in and yeah, jumping in when and where I can.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Can you guys see me?
Yes, you can. Hello.
And that might be quite unfortunate, but we like to have a bit of a personal touch here at Scout, and it's good to put a face to the voice. So I thought I'd introduce myself. I like to joke that I'm the mission specialist, but I'm just a mere Scout specialist. So I'll take you through the demonstration part of today's meeting, and there is Tim, who is your sales extraordinaire up in Brisbane. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity as well, and what we'll be doing today is just giving yourselves an opportunity to understand and appreciate what Scout is capable of, and in terms of whatever review process that you need to go through, we'll certainly provide you with information and resources as you require it. I think Tim mentioned 40 minutes, which is a good introduction, which is what we'll do today, and we'll cover off on the important things, and hopefully I would have piqued your interest enough to continue the conversation, which of course Tim will manage.
Great.
So I'm going to now turn off the camera, because enough of that. So Tim, if you could do the same, just hit that little button that says camera. It's quite an interesting organisation that you have. I've actually have a a friend of mine who's a cinematographer in working in LA at the moment. He's doing quite nicely for himself. So when Tim mentioned this opportunity, I thought, well, that's really quite interesting in terms of your organisation, Viacom.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of a look. I had a bit of a look today, and obviously you've got a number of brands under the hood, and Nickelodeon's one of them, and obviously at the moment your the portal to apply for roles is, as you mentioned before, that email address, and that's quite common. You know, we see that in a lot of places. You know, your stories about Outlook and managing applications through folders in Outlook, I've heard that time and time again, and it makes logical sense, but over time it becomes harder and harder to deal with, and you know, the archiving is, yeah, it's not helpful at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so what we like to do is provide a much better way of doing that for you. And one of the key things that I think you'll really like about Scout is that we're really big on the brand. So, you know, we work with, you know, lots of interesting organisations. Now, Retail Zoo is probably one of the biggest brands that I can think of in Australia, which includes Boost Juice. Everyone loves a juice, and and this is their career site that we built for them. So we actually integrate inside your website, and we do that in a way that makes it seamless. So you can see there are some roles that are going on there at the moment with Retail Zoo. Down the road from you guys, University of Sydney Union. This is their career site, and you can see that you know, they do a lot of hospitality recruitment, but the way the roles are listed is quite different, and we've done all of that work, and it's not a big thing, it's just part of our implementation. And then of course, you know, we get into probably one of our biggest names and our biggest clients, which is Flight Centre. And you know, they're also really big on brand, and I actually just wanted to take you through to one of those, because if you look at their actual application form, it's quite interesting. I'm just going to pull that up now, and it might just take a minute. I'm on Wi-Fi here, so it'll just take a minute. But you know, you've probably seen the typical application form. You know, when you go to Seek, or when you go to, you know, you mentioned quite a few other niche job boards. You know, you can go there, you go to Seek, and you can apply with your Seek profile, or if you go to these other boards, you answer a few questions, and away you go. And I think your organisation, as you mentioned, Liz and Bronwyn, that you don't really have an issue with attraction, but you've just got an issue with managing the applications.
Yeah.
So this might just be a little bit over the top in terms of an actual job advertisement, because that's what this is. You know, if I scroll down, there's lots of content about the role and videos and employee reviews, but it kind of is in line with your organisation in terms of brand and more information about you. And what we want to do is we want to help you to attract more talent, but better manage it, and so help you to find the best people. So that's probably an over-the-top form, whereas if I was to go to, say, University of Sydney and look at one of their roles, this is perhaps a more consistent application form. So we brand this for you. So this is just a URL page. It's got your content, which you manage in terms of the role and the information and the detail. They can apply with Seek, they can apply with LinkedIn. But then the key thing that is the point of difference that would really actually add benefit to your organisation are these questions. You mentioned for one of those producer roles, you got about 300 applications.
Yeah.
So we give you the ability to be able to actually ask questions as part of that application process.
Okay.
Now, you've got quite a unique industry, so I don't have a lot of experience there, so my apologies. But what I will try and explain to you is that you can have different sets of questions for different roles.
Yeah.
And these questions can be knockout questions, for example, that you don't want to look at them at all. Or they might be questions that are highly desirable skills that you want to flag or highlight.
Yeah.
And then you might want to have questions around experience, which I think would be very important, and the more experience, the higher the score.
Yeah.
So do you see how that could work for yourselves?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And then you can have different sets of questions for different roles. Now, I'll talk more about that in a moment, but the key thing here is about, you mentioned how you advertise in lots of different places. You know, this is a unique web address that we create for every single advertisement. So we'll interact with your website automatically. We can also facilitate advertising on Seek, for example, but you've got a lot of niche boards. And you can just go ahead and post your job to those boards just the way you're doing it at the moment. But if you include this link, and that includes LinkedIn, they ask for a URL for applications, that will just direct all the traffic back to this one page. And what that means is everyone comes into the same portal and has the same experience. Everyone comes into the Scout database. They get an automated response thanking them for their application, a bit like your email automated response.
Yeah.
But then everyone's in the system, everyone's in the database, and then you can manage it in one place moving forward, which is what I'm about to show you now. So let's jump into Scout. Oh, ha! I just closed it down, that's okay. I'm going to log in again. Bear with me. Username and password. See, Tim, nothing's perfect.
Doing well, Ron, you're doing well.
Okay, this is your dashboard. Okay,
great.
So this is a cloud-based solution, Liz Bronwyn. You can access it anywhere, anytime, on any device. Do you guys have iPads?
No, not for work.
No.
I kind of like the idea of being able to review my applicants while I'm having coffee. And I know you guys have great coffee in Sydney.
Yeah. Not as good as Melbourne, I keep hearing.
Well, I don't want this to be an argument about Melbourne versus Sydney. Sorry, Tim?
I said I'd probably have to agree with the not as good as Melbourne coffee. That's probably because I'm from Melbourne, so I'm a little bit biased there, but that's okay.
You can't. You're in Queensland now. You're in the bottom.
Yeah, I know. I don't even drink coffee anymore.
That's how bad it is up there.
The pineapple juice is great though, so.
Now, there is a delay, a slight delay on this GoToMeeting for some reason, so we are deliberately talking over each other, not. But I've set this up for you guys. This is your dashboard, and like I said before, we're very big on branding. So even the dashboard, the Scout dashboard, is branded accordingly. And you know, we could go as far as even having a different dashboard for MTV, Comedy Central, but that might be overkill. But in terms of when you're advertising the role, absolutely, we could have a different application form for MTV, a different application form for Comedy Central and for Nickelodeon, and that's just a central part of our system. But in terms of the Scout dashboard, that can be whatever you want it to be. But you can see here we've got a number of roles on the go, and you can see down the bottom there is a digital marketing role. And it's really straightforward to create the role in Scout. I won't go through all of it today, but essentially, you know, we've got a preview of that role, and it's got your branding on it, of course. And actually, if I clicked on here, you get an even better look at it. This is a preview before we actually advertise it, which I think is really important. So, you know, you'll get that authority to advertise. You'll go ahead and create the advertisement. You'll preview it before you actually go and advertise it, and then you'll basically hit the go button. And once you hit the go button, then it'll actually go live in the wide world web, so to speak. And that trigger point is essentially this publish button over here. Once you hit that, it will immediately appear on your website in the careers section, and this is the link that you would use to advertise it on all the other job boards that you advertise to.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once it's out there, we can start to track some really cool stuff. So, for example, knowing how well the role is performing. So we can see at a glance how many roles are actually being received by day and where they're coming from. Because we want to help you to ensure that you're maximising your advertising and ensuring you're getting best bang for buck. I mean, I'm sure you know what works best, but this might just put some science behind it.
Yeah.
But let's get to the really important stuff, and that is, seeing your applicants. So on your dashboard, how many jobs would you have on the go at any one time, Liz?
Well, at the moment, I think we've got 12.
12? It can be anywhere between 3 and 12?
Yeah, say 3 to 12. And just a
Okay.
quick question on the dashboard.
Well,
Like for me, because I'm recruiting for obviously all the brands and then also VIMN, is there a way that we could distinguish on the dashboard what's what? Which brand? Like which
Yes,
brand?
yeah, we can actually. There is a way of adding a column on here. I think it's location, and we could use that to represent the brand. But there's actually a couple of ways of doing it. I know that there was one client that had it represented on the dashboard in a different way. So we most certainly can do that. Just to give you an idea, I might just quickly show you this now. We've got a different view, which is what we call a hiring manager view. And so the idea there is that if different people are involved in the recruitment process, they too can log in, and they would only see the roles that they're working on.
Great, that's good.
And I probably jumped ahead a bit, but I just wanted to demonstrate that we can configure the system the way you work.
Yeah.
And security is paramount, obviously. And also we can control what people can do. We can actually make people, view only, or we can stop them from doing bulk emails and stuff like that. Tim, can you just make sure that you make a note of that requirement so that we can ensure that we demonstrate that the next time around?
Yeah, absolutely. Writing it down now.
Cool. Great. Okay. So, sorry, I went one step too far. All right. So on the dashboard, one of the ways that this system works really well is that you're obviously quite busy and you're dealing with lots of roles. You come in on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, okay, how are our roles performing? The idea behind this screen is you can actually clearly see the number 9 or the number 2. They're the number of applicants received, and in brackets the number of new applicants yet to be reviewed. So the idea is that you go, okay, which job am I going to go into first? And you can see, okay, one particular role has got a whole ton of applications, and let's get stuck into that one. And maybe another job's got no applicants, and maybe we need to fix that and advertise it somewhere else. So it's a bit of an action point or call to action for you. That make sense?
Yeah.
But let's just jump in. So the digital marketing role that I created for you guys before, if I click on the number 9, we are immediately presented with a list of applicants for this role. So what you see here is the candidate's name. If they are a serial offender like Elaine Bennett, you get the little red symbol.
Yeah, love it.
Name, suburb, state, when they applied, rating, and status. So the rating can be used to determine suitability based on things like experience or qualification. And you can sort by that. So you can see here the green are good to go and the reds are don't touch with a 10-foot pole. And the status is completely configurable. So we'll set that up for you and we'll use your terminology. So open is new, ineligible means that, they've obviously come from Moscow, so they can't possibly work here. And unsuccessful people have gone through the process. So you get a really good snapshot of where you're going with this particular role.
Yeah.
You've got up the top your bulk communication tools. I won't go through those today, but we'll leave that for another time. But you can see here, bulk emailing. You can send information externally. You can, there's an interview scheduler. SMS. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do. But I want to just focus on the key elements of Scout, and that is being able to really get a good handle on where you're at with this particular role. And then being able to drill down and look at someone more closely, like Donald Trump.
Not hiring him.
No, we're gonna terminate him. I've got to actually change the system, and I have one here that's called Terminate. But I just haven't got around to it yet. But you've got, this is the candidate's file, right? So I can actually hide the side menu. It just gives you more work area. I think it's a really nice added feature of Scout to give it more usability. So you've got the contact information. You've got the responses to those questions that we talked about at the start as part of that application process. You've got attachments. Now those attachments can be any type of document. It could be, and we'll get to the show reel in a moment. Just let me park that one for a minute. But it can be, a PDF. It could be a PowerPoint, whatever. And you can attach more stuff as you go through the recruitment process. We've got activities, so that's your section where we track everything that you do. And then we've got stuff like adding notes and emails and things like that. And then if you book them in for an interview, we can track that. And there's even a task system so you can set reminders.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things I like about this system is that I can reorder this screen, and it's based on individual users. So essentially for yourselves, I think probably attachments is probably the first thing that you guys want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where you get to see what they're providing as part of their application. With the show reel, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Is that documentation, is it a link to a website?
Normally it's a link to either a Vimeo file or something on YouTube, yep. Their own website, but yeah, normally it's on that digital platform.
Okay.
So the cover letter or CV.
Yeah. So they wouldn't necessarily attach it. It's embedded in their CV or cover letter as a link.
I'd almost have that as one of the questions, right? So if I just go back to that application form, you can actually have obviously your details here, but these questions are completely configurable. So you could actually have in here obviously yes, no's and multiple choices, but you could also have one-liners,
yeah,
as well as large text boxes. Mm-hmm. So I think that maybe you put in the link here. It's like a URL address. Nothing's stopping me from. I think I used to have my own website. I just can't remember where I did it. This could be dangerous. I remember setting up my own little website. It was really cheap and nasty, but it was quite effective. That's not me, by the way. But you can just copy that in there, like that. That would be one way of doing it. And if you did it that way, it would mean that under the responses area, it could be right up the top there.
Yeah. And is there a way that they can put a password as well? Because some of the Vimeo videos require a password. So
then just, yeah. Okay. So then just to the second question, sorry, I keep going to the wrong page. The second question that we configure for you is, what's your password? So question 2 is, where's your information, where's your show reel? And question 3 is, what's your password?
Yeah, cool.
That'd be the best way to do it. And you could put a disclaimer on, like this form's configurable, so you might have instructions here before they get to the application saying, we need your information, but rest assured, your information is secured or stored securely, and it is, because it's stored on in Amazon in a data center actually in Sydney. I think that's probably the easiest way to do that, because then they're presenting the information to you. If they didn't want to give it to you in a form, they insist on giving it to you verbally, you know what, we could probably create a form that you fill out under the activities section, and you just put it in here, something along these lines. Password is ABC123, something like that. There you go.
Okay.
So I think there's some flexibility with how we do that, and that probably would work for you guys, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Okay. I'm just a bit conscious of time, but I wanted to finish with talking about talent pooling, and then just talking just very quickly about how we help our clients to implement this solution. You okay with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So in terms of the application process, you'll use the system to help you to work your way through, obviously, candidates being rejected and shortlisted and interviewed, and I won't go into too much detail today. We can do that another time. But essentially what we do is, we might decide that Joey Tribbiani is talent pool material. So we'll just mark him as talent pool. And so what that means is, we've obviously got some applicants that are going to be rejected. Some you might offer the role to somebody, and then down the bottom, Joey's going to be, future material for Nickelodeon potentially. That's one way of going about it, but I think the way that would work well for your organisation is where we actually create specific talent pool roles. Would there be times when you're not actually openly advertising? And actually, as I'm answering the question or asking the question, I'm actually answering it. You're always on the lookout for great talent, correct?
Yeah. But the roles do vary.
How many different types of roles would you have? You mentioned producers and editors and stuff like that, but in terms of role type, how many different roles would there be?
Oh God.
Lots?
A lot. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe the best approach is that you can either just sit them here as a talent pool, and so the next time you have this type of role, and it's a very specific role, you'll simply go back into Scout, bring up that role that you advertised 3 months ago. Who are the guys that we talent pooled for that role? And there might be 3 or 4. You can search for them, like we could search based on, some keywords and stuff like that. There's probably a number of different ways of going about it, but the key thing is that the candidates stay in Scout forever, or as long as you want. And if you maybe you just create one big talent pool bucket, and what that means is that maybe every 3 months you might send out a newsletter to all of your talent pool candidates just to keep them informed of what's going on with your organisation.
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff that you can do, because obviously with things like talent communities, you're not really a talent community or a talent pool unless you're actually regularly engaging with them.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense, and does that work for you guys? Do you think that that could be a great potential for you in terms of helping to fill future roles?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it'd be good to, I don't know if we can set up talent pooling like under specific job types. So, for example, if I know that this girl's going to be an amazing marketing manager, can I set up a talent pool, put all of the amazing marketing managers that I come across?
Yeah, I think you absolutely can, and I think that's what I was thinking might be the case. I just want to bring this up. This is a client of ours. It's completely unrelated, but what they do is similar. They're an aged care provider in Western Australia, and what they do is they've actually got, obviously, some vacancies, but they've also created this talent pool, like role-specific types.
Yeah.
And they've chosen to have them on their website. You don't have to do that. They could just be internal talent pool roles that are specific role types, like the ones that you mentioned in terms of marketing. And if you go back to my Scout dashboard, you can have roles that are advertised, and I've published them, and then there can be other roles that are not published. And they are just internal to the system, talent pool roles, and you can move candidates to those roles and then always go back to them.
Okay.
And a lot of clients actually do that, so that works really well. I think the aim here is to, do exactly what you're trying to do, and that is, okay, next time you've got that sort of requirement, just go to that list of candidates, pull up the list, just like I've shown you now, except it's a list of talent pool candidates, and engage with them. Call them up, send them a bulk email, do what you need to do.
Okay, great.
So before I talk about the implementation, which is literally just a couple of minutes of discussion, anything else that you'd like to see, and also keeping in mind that Tim is more than happy to engage and provide, another look at this system, a more detailed look, whatever it is that you need to be comfortable. But for now, is there anything else that I can show you?
Can you just quickly show us the interview scheduling side of things?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the way that you schedule those interviews, do you do a run of them across a day, or are they more ad hoc?
A bit of both. So, yeah, depends on the role.
Okay.
And depends on the applicant. Yeah.
And do you ever do things like group assessments where you might bring in 10 people to fight against each other for the one role?
No, we never do that. We might do like
okay.
a creative brief, like an activity for second round, but we don't do like a bulk.
Okay. So what we can do is we can actually create a schedule, and that can be either a single event or multiple. So for example, we could say create a whole bunch of face-to-face interviews, and maybe we want to create maybe 5 or 6 of them, maybe 10 of them, and how much time do we need between each one? And then when we do that, the system will actually create a schedule for you automatically based on the criteria that you specify. That literally takes 10 seconds to do that. And then what we do is we actually send out a bulk email. So we actually go into our list of applicants and we do a bulk time slot invitation. And we say, okay, we want to do a face-to-face interview. So we have these templates that we set up. And it automatically, so I'm only going to send it to my shortlisted applicants, but maybe it missed poor old Joey. So we'll send that out. So that's a bulk email.
Yeah, that's great.
And
then if we go and check out, sorry.
You're right. I normally phone screen before I do book interviews, and the phone screening is really just checking what's your motivation for the role, why are you leaving your current role, what salary expectations, blah, blah. So that we can cover off in our initial application screening, can't we?
Yeah.
All of those.
Yeah, let me show you that in one moment. So just with this particular scheduling system, this is a copy of the email that's stored in Scout.
Yeah.
And if the candidate gets this email, which has got your branding, and they click on this link, hey presto, they can actually book themselves in.
And it's great because it minimises the backwards and forwards of I can't do that time. Can you do 6:30 in the evening?
Yeah. And then if you go back to your dashboard, you actually see it as they book themselves in.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And is there a way that that can go into our Outlook calendars, like for the hiring manager and myself?
It will automatically go into your Outlook calendar.
Yep.
We're still having technical details or issues in trying to reach out to the hiring manager's calendar.
Okay.
But you can
I can forward it on
as a nice calendar thing.
Yeah, because the system links to the Outlook on your computer. But it's something that's on our agenda in terms of future development, but you could go to your calendar and then invite them.
Okay, great.
And just getting back to your interview, your phone screen.
Yes.
So if we go to, say, Elaine Bennett, you want to do a phone screen. Sorry, that's not me. I mean, that is me, but it's not me. Okay, we've got a form for that. So you've got Elaine on the phone, and we've got a little form that we've set up for you. And we've configured this for you. So as you got on the phone, you could actually fill out this form.
Yeah.
And you could even score her responses.
Yeah.
And then obviously once you finish it, you submit it. And that's done. And there's the form down there, date and time stamped.
Oh.
And the hiring manager has access to that as well.
Just another question. Once we've had the interviews and we've got our shortlist for second round and are unsuccessful, can we send out the bulk emails at that stage to say thanks for coming to the interview, you've been unsuccessful if we didn't want to call, which we normally do call, but is that an option? And also inviting for a second interview through the system?
Yes and yes.
Great.
We've got the ability to do emailing by status.
Yeah.
Sorry, email candidates by status. Picked the wrong one. So we'll actually set up a whole bunch of different templates for you. I think that Scout is really about improving the candidate's experience both at the front end but also through the recruitment process. So things like, even little things like there's been a delay in shortlisting, it takes you 30 seconds to send an email to everybody.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you just talked about, unsuccessfuls, yeah, absolutely. We can even put a delay on it so that, you know, maybe you'll send it at 4 o'clock and they get it at 8 o'clock so they don't call you back straight away.
Yeah, I used to use that. Great.
And then, you know, you've got second round interviews. So one of these statuses will basically be second round interviews, and it'll be a template saying, congratulations, you've made the second round. We'll be in touch shortly to arrange the next step.
Okay, awesome.
And of course, yeah, no, pleasure. And every email, like you saw before, is stored in the database. So you'll always know what has happened against every candidate.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Any more questions? I think we're all good. Hopefully.
We're good.
Like I'm really confident. You know, given what Tim has told me and what we've learned today, I think that you know, a solution like Scout would make a huge difference in the way that you manage your recruitment. And I think the real point of difference for Scout is really just about the branding, which is something that will work really well for your organisation. But then just the simplicity and ease of use is something that we've worked really hard to achieve with Scout.
Yeah.
In terms of the implementation, I'll only just talk about this for a minute or so, Tim, and then I'll hand back to you. So hopefully you're still awake. But and I say that in jest. I always use that as a bit of a line when people are, you know, just quiet in the background. But look, in terms of the implementation, another key point of difference, Liz and Bronwyn, is that, you know, when you're buying software, sometimes there's a bit of a scary element in terms of, oh, we've got all this work to do to get it implemented. You know, we've got to set it up, we've got to do the training, we've got to set our processes in place. You know, we've got 500 clients in Australia, and we've got this pretty right. We actually do a lot of the grunt work. So we'll set up the branding for you. We'll set up a lot of those forms, and we'll help set up some of those questions and the application forms. And the best thing about doing that is that when it gets to doing the training, we actually train you, and we do it online, but we train you on your environment in Scout. So it's not vanilla training, it's realistic training. And what it does is it allows us to just tweak the way we set the system up. And then you've got 2 training sessions over 2 weeks, so we get to training session number 2, and by then, everything should have been sorted out, and everything should be quite nice the way you want it to work. You might have another week of, you know, just your final customer testing, and then you go live. And that literally is, you know, 4 weeks. And it's very little effort on your part. I think the training is 2 90-minute sessions.
Great. Awesome.
Cool. All right. I think I've talked enough today. So as your mission specialist, I will hand back over to sales extraordinaire Tim to wrap up. But I really appreciate your time today, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Ron.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Thanks very much for joining us on the demonstration, mate. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Great. Okay, so Liz, Bronwyn, I hope that Ron was able to sort of demonstrate with you guys, you know, a little bit about the system and the way that it might work well for yourselves in cutting down time. I did notice myself with a couple of the questions that you fired away there that you were quite keen on minimising the amount of times that you might have to call the candidates for you know, the various positions that you are trying to fill. Be it like I think you mentioned having to call them to let them know that they were unsuccessful for the second round of interviews, or having to call them even for the shortlisting process of the interviews as well. If you could set up you know, the selection criteria questions, so that you wouldn't have to call them to do the shortlisting and just go straight for the first interview. I think that would be something that might save you a lot of time. Was that something that you were thinking about there as well, or that's just what I was picking up on?
Yeah, no, definitely save a lot of time.
Definitely. Yeah. So, what did you think of the system itself? Like, is there any questions that you guys have now that Ron's finished, or anything on anything like?
Yeah,
it is straightforward.
It looks very similar to a system that I've used before, but just a little bit more a basic model, I guess. But it looks very easy to navigate.
Yeah, that's right. I think you said you were using was it HR21? Was it you were using before?
Page Up.
Page Up.
Yeah.
That's right. You had the Page Up system when you were in the Gold Coast.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, it's a much simpler system to use. It's much more straightforward. And as I was saying, and as Ron was saying also, it is a system that we do completely tailored to suit the way that you guys use it. Be it show reels and passwords and that sort of thing in your shortlisting in your selection criteria process. But that's something that I think maybe we can, you guys can go away, have a think about, and we'll reconvene and have another chat about it in a couple of days.
Sounds good.
Just to jump in, Tim.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll just get you the information that you need, Tim, in order to get that proposal together for them. And the proposal actually just covers off all the stuff that I've gone through today.
Okay.
So when you have a chat with them in a few days, you'll be able to walk them through that.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Ron.
Pleasure.
Okay, well, is that everyone? All questions, everything's covered? No one's got anything left in the tank to sort of add or?
No, I think we're all good.
That's it for now.
Thank you.
Great, perfect. Well, very nice to meet you, Bronwyn. Nice to talk to you again, Liz.
Yeah.
And we'll get the proposal together, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.
That's great.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.